Week 15 just around the corner. Hopefully you guys are still alive in your playoffs. I'm Dustin. Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. A couple of big injuries in the NFL this week, so let's go ahead and talk about the must-adds. And the first one is Felix Jones. You know, a tough break for all you Murray owners, including myself. I had him in a couple leagues. It's definitely a tough break. But this does open the door for Felix Jones. He's owned in about 60% of leagues. So if you own him, he could be a decent play for you Week 15 against the Bucs. And if he's still available, you're going to want to try to grab him if you can. You know, when healthy, he can still put up decent numbers. Next, James Jones, only on 55% of leagues with Greg Jennings going down with his injury. You know, he looks like he's going to miss the rest of the regular season. This is just going to open up the door for all the Packers receivers to get a few more targets. Jones has big play potential. He's streaky, but I do like Jones more than the other Packer receiver that you might want to consider picking up, and that's Donald Driver. I think he's a must-add in deeper leagues. In PPR leagues, I think he has decent value, but my fear with Driver is if they get up early, they're going to pull him before they pull Jones, I feel. Jones is a little further down in my mind on the depth chart, and Driver's older, and they're just going to want to keep him healthy for the playoffs. So I like Jones just a little bit more out of the two, but both those guys have decent value now that Jennings is out. And the last must-add in all leagues is my boy Demaryius Thomas. How about Timmy Tebow? That guy has looked great, at least in the fourth quarter. And Demaryius Thomas is only on 5% of leagues right now. He's quickly become Tebow's favorite target over the last 2 weeks. They play New England Week 15, which should mean a lot of passing. I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to keep that winning streak going, but I do think Thomas will have another decent game. And also, too, if you don't think you're going to start Thomas, you might just want to look at the matchup that you have Week 15 with your other fantasy team that you're playing and see if you think Thomas might be an upgrade to any of their receivers. If you think he could be, you might want to pick up Thomas just to block the other team from being able to get him. All right, let's talk about some must-add in deeper leagues. First guy I'm going to talk about, Steve Breston. In PPR leagues, he's been pretty solid. Over the last 6 games, he has 4 more catches in all of those games. That's pretty impressive considering the quarterback situation out there, that he has that type of consistency. He's only on 40% of leagues. I think he's pretty much a lock for 10-plus points against Green Bay, and I think he has a decent upside and could even find the end zone. Might be a bit of a stretch, but I think he will get involved if you're looking for a receiver in a PPR league. I like him next week. Let's talk about some running backs. First one, Toby Gerhart. I can't believe he's still only on in 50% of leagues. I know he's a temporary solution, but he's put together 2 really great games, and there's no guarantee that Peterson's going to come back Week 15. It sounds like he's going to, but now that Gerhart's playing better, that's even one more reason for the Vikings to let AP get one more week off. So just see what happens, but if you're desperate for a running back, you might want to pick up Gerhart and see if AP sits one more week. Another running back, you got Khalil Bell for Chicago. Played pretty solid Week 14. He ended up with 14 touches. He had 5 catches, so in deeper PPR leagues, he could have some value. And with Marion Barber basically just blowing the game for the Bears, you might see a few more touches going Bell's way. And one more running back is Ryan Grant, only on 45% of leagues. Had his best game of the year, playing with Starks out. Starks might miss another game, might not. Ryan Grant could have a decent first half against the Chiefs, but I fully expect him to get pulled after they're playing with a giant lead that they probably will have in the second half. But if you're desperate for a running back and if Starks ends up missing another game, I think Ryan Grant is obviously a solid play. One quarterback you might want to look at is Jake Locker. He might get his first start Week 15 against Indy, only on 5% of leagues, in 2 quarterback leagues, and in really deep leagues if you're desperate for a quarterback. Not a bad matchup for him, and he looked pretty good in relief for Hasselbeck last week, so if you're desperate, you might want to look at Locker. All right, let's talk about those pick up and play defenses. The first one's Tennessee going up against Indy. Tennessee's only on about 30% of leagues. Every team against Indy is worth consideration, and Tennessee's a decent defense, so I really like them this week. Next, we got Seattle at Chicago. Like I was saying last week, pretty much any team that plays Chicago now down the stretch has to be considered. Not a lot of weapons on that offense anymore. And my last potential pickup and play defense is Atlanta at home against Jacksonville. Now, Jacksonville did look great last week, but the thing that Atlanta is great at is stopping the run. Not that great at stopping the pass, but Jacksonville doesn't have that solid of a passing game. So I think Atlanta will be able to do decent on defense against Jacksonville. And one person to keep an eye on, and that's John Kuhn. I like him if you're really desperate if Starks misses another game. I expect the Packers to get an early lead in that Chiefs game, which means they're going to pull Ryan Grant, which means Kuhn should get a lot of touches in the second half, and he does have always that potential of getting in the end zone. So I think Kuhn could be a sneaky play if Starks ends up missing another game, and if you're really desperate in a deeper league, or if you lost Murray and you're desperate for a running back. So that's it for our Week 15 Waiver Wire show. This is just a portion of the list. To see the full list, get onto the website. I'm Dustin. If you want to check out all of our basketball rankings, they're up on the site as well. If you're planning on playing fantasy basketball, get into those forums. If you got any questions for you, we'll see you later this week.